In June of 1998, a website launched pleading with the internet to help locate 3 missing film students. The website contained police reports, missing posters, footage from the project that the students were filming when they went missing. It was later announced that the entirety of their footage would be compiled into a film to spread awareness, which would premiere at the 1999 Sundance Film Festival. At this time, its 3 student filmmakers were listed on IMDb as missing, presumed dead. The internet was in an uproar over this film, fearing the worst for poor Heather, Mike, and Josh. The film? The Blair Witch Project. The narrative? Completely false. The Blair Witch Project, though not the first found footage film, that title goes to the controversial Cannibal Holocaust, could be argued to be the first film to go viral. Filmmakers Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick decided to utilize the internet in a way that had never been done before, allowing for an insane buy-in for their independent film. In a way, the Blair Witch Project can be even perceived as a very elaborate ARG or alternate reality game, and certainly ushered horror into the new millennium. The vague, anonymous nature of the internet, especially the internet of the late 90s and early 2000s, allow a certain suspension of belief for projects like the Blair Witch Project. The insane success of Blair Witch Project, it was only a matter of time before more internet horror stories popped up. Enter the hero of our story, Ted. Hello, my name is glitchwitch.jpg. I make videos talking about various internet horror, ranging from digital and analog horror, creepypastas, internet urban legends, and even sometimes survival horror video games. I do want to say before I get into this, while the title of this video is referring to a specific analog horror project, I will be using that project, Ted's Caving Journal, as a jumping off point for a wider discussion of the evolution and the enduring legacy of internet horror on the whole. So this is definitely more of an essay than an analysis on Ted's Caving Journal, but I will touch on it a little bit later. I just think it is a very good project to use to explain my position on internet horror and how it has evolved. So I just want to say that before I get into it, and that 100% I am in love with Ted's Caving Journal. Please go watch it. Well, this won't be an analysis video on it. I want more people to see it, and I want more people to get eyes on it, so please watch it. I've linked it below. Without further ado, I'm going to get into this video essay. In 2001, an Angel Fire website was created to document the exploits of an amateur caver named Ted. The website would update semi-regularly, documenting the discovery and exploration of an unexplored passage in an unnamed mystery cave by Ted and his friend B. These blog entries are detailed, and it's very clear that Ted knows his stuff when it comes to caving. It attaches photos of the newfound passage and documents their process opening up the passage so that they can go through and explore it. On the outset of this, there's nothing that miraculous. It just seems like an early 2000s hobbyist blog, but obviously I would not be talking about it if there wasn't something else afoot. As Ted and B begin exploring more, a lot of anomalous occurrences start to happen, ranging from strange noises, weird hieroglyphs they find beyond the passage, and these reoccurring hallucinations that both they and other people they bring into the cave start to experience. And again, this is all text-based, so we're only getting images and descriptions from Ted. Final post, Ted says he and B are returning to the cave with more supplies and even weapons this time, finishing off with, quote, "See all of you soon with a lot of answers. Love, Ted." The page would never be updated. While Ted the Caver didn't reach a Blair Witch level of virality, it had countless internet users hooked. Many believed the story to be true while it was being updated and were horrified when they were kept waiting for answers from Ted that never came. Writer of this website, Ted Hegeman, forgive me Ted if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, came forward as the author and a genuine caver. Though the story was fictional, its innovative presentation single-handedly changed what horror could be. Ted the Caver is shockingly similar to Blair Witch Project in its execution. Both present a plausible, though slightly spooky situation. The story is presented in a first-hand found style. and the monster at the source of the horror is never shown or revealed. Ted's release of the story in bite-sized blog posts added a layer of interactivity that Blair Witch didn't have, because all of Blair Witch's web presence existed simply to sell the movie, whereas Ted existed solely on the web as a web-based story. There was nothing to sell. It was simply a story told using the web. Many scholars view Ted the Caver as the first ever creepypasta, which is contended by others who point out that like chain email hoaxes from earlier in the 90s could be the first creepypasta. But I personally do view Ted the Caver as the original creepypasta because I think it is what created the possibilities for what web-based horror could be. And for that, you know, I think it deserves the title of first ever creepypasta. And, you know, it's interesting because it does predate the creepypasta boom by several years. I would say that like 2008, 2009 was the big creepypasta boom. But it truly, no matter what you call it, it is a foundation of the internet horror community. It's been 23 years since Ted left everyone hanging with his final post. Internet horror has changed a lot since then, but the ghost of Ted can be felt everywhere. The format would go on to inspire traditional forum-based creepypastas, alternate reality games, analog horror, and though not as popular as the aforementioned mediums, I think that social media-based horror stories like Gregory 88, The Sun Vanished, and Teletubby Facts, which I made a video about. Please go watch it. Thank you. It's a good one. I just like that story. I don't know that it's a good video. It's just a good story. I think these are the truest spiritual successors to Ted because of their real-time updates on, you know, more modern ways of communicating with people. Well, after the big creepypasta boom, it kind of was reduced to little more than cringy old school horror that we all made fun of. We've seen a bizarre resurgence in creepypasta in the past like 2 or 3 years, and it's happened very rapidly. And I think this is thanks to the fact that what is nostalgic is changing as rapidly as our technology is. So things from, you know, 10 years ago are now nostalgic to us when, you know, previously it was taking 20 to 30 years for something to become nostalgic. While creepypasta is growing once again in popularity, I think that it's still dwarfed by its successor, which is analog and digital horror. I think analog and digital horror have grown exponentially. Since the release of Local 58 in 2017, analog horror has had a vice grip on the internet horror community, and it itself has undergone so many facelifts and evolutions and changes that now there's an offshoot called digital horror, but they really are, to me, all doing the same thing. It's just that the names make it difficult to pen certain things as analog, so that thus digital horror is born. Hilariously enough, if we view Local 58 as the original analog horror, which I do, some people don't. I know CHSS is a big contender. I view that as an ARG, and Local 58 is the first pure analog horror. It's a creepypasta spin-off, so we only have analog horror because of creepypasta, and that's because Local 58 creator Chris Straub wrote the iconic Candle Cove creepypasta, and these two projects exist in the same universe. Internet horror is just one. The Venn diagram for internet horror is just a circle. It's all the same. I think that we've fallen into this issue in the community of tearing it into specific factions and fighting that one is better than the other. Like the way that I see digital horror people say, oh my god, we're so much better than analog horror. And I don't mean the creators. I don't think this is a creator problem. This is a fan problem. So I see fans of digital horror being like, oh my god, analog horror is so played. It's all about digital horror. And it's like, it's the same thing. Wearing a different colored eyeliner. Thank you very much. And analog horror is creepypasta. Wearing different colored eyeliner. Thank you very much. The series that I mentioned earlier and referenced in the name of this video that I haven't even really talked about yet is one that I think is very successfully fighting the separation of internet horror. And I love it. It's super exciting. This year in 2024, a group of young filmmakers began uploading a nearly like line by line filmed adaptation of Ted the Caver called Ted's Caving Journal. And I cannot understate how good this is. These are first-time filmmakers. They have made some of the best found footage I've ever seen, not just online, but in general. And I love found footage. I have a very low bar for found footage. Like, I will watch any found footage you give me, but I also recognize when it's done well. And this is done so well. I cannot believe it. It's so faithful to Ted the Caver to the point where they're literally uploading it following the timeline of when the original blog was posted just 23 years later, which is so cool. And the thing that is mind-boggling to me, at the time of recording this, they only have 4.3K subscribers. This is one of the best internet projects I've ever seen, and I know I'm one to talk. I have like very small amount of subscribers compared to other people, but these guys should have tens of thousands of subscribers. And really the only reason that I know about them, and I think a lot of the people subscribed to them know about them, is because they took a risk and went on a Wendigoon stream and said, hey, we made this thing because we watched your video with Meat Canyon about Ted the Caver and we wanted to make a series about it, so we went and made a series about it. And Wendigoon saw that and actually watched it. I believe they had like a couple of hundred subscribers when he first went on the stream and saw it. So, I mean, I'm thrilled that they have exploded as much as they have, but my God, they deserve so much more. I'm not gonna, like I said earlier, I'm not gonna give a breakdown or an analysis of this series. That's what I sat down to do originally, but there's nothing to explain or break down. It is literally Ted the Caver, which I think is not something that needs explaining. It's just a really good piece of horror. But I wanted to use it as a really cool jumping off point to explain how great internet horror can be when we let it exist simply as internet horror, not off in these individual factions. I think that Ted's Caving Journal is a beautiful example of how multi-generational the genre has become and just how far that it's come as its own entity. It shows that these older stories like Ted the Caver, because yeah, it's 23 years old. Like, it's old. I don't know what to tell you. I am older than that, but as far as a piece of media goes, that's pretty old. It shows that these original stories have a huge impact on younger creators and that we are building on what has already existed, which is super cool. I encourage you to please go watch Ted's Caving Journal. Please go give them a subscribe and a like. It's great. It's some of the, like I said, some of the best fun footage I've ever seen. And great acting, some of the best acting I've ever seen in any internet horror. And just effortless. I love it so much. I love it. Ted's Caving Journal is not the first filmed creepypasta adaptation. The Slender Man series, Marble Hornets, was huge when it came out and was a massive building block on filmed internet horror as we know it today. But I think it was so big and so synonymous with Slender Man that I won't even call it an adaptation. It's responsible for so much of the Slender Man lore that we equate with Slender Man today that I almost put it on the same level. Like, it is a foundational part of the creepypasta. However, there's another modern creepypasta digital horror project called Chainmail Chasers that adapts Smile Dog into kind of its own new thing. It's not as like direct of an adaptation as Ted the Caver, but honestly that's because there's not as much to adapt with Smile Dog. They're just taking the concept of the chainmail message of Smile Dog and turning it into a series. And I love Chainmail Chasers. Another honestly criminally underrated. I'm looking up to see how many subscribers they have, because another to me criminally underrated series because they only have 14.4K. And again, that's a lot. I would cry if I had that many subscribers, but I'm just saying, like, there are other series that I do not think are anywhere close to the level of quality and passion as this series that have way more subscribers. So, you know, this... And I'm sure there's a lot more than just these two. Like, I watched Sagan Hawk's most recent video. I haven't finished it, but he mentioned that Remy Abode has a Slenderman series that he's been working on, which is really cool because Remy Abode is absolutely a backbone of this community as well because he created Gemini Home Entertainment. So it's here. It's happening. The circle is closing. You know what I mean? So I think it's really exciting because this feels like such a celebration of the legacy of internet horror, because you're getting new, fresh creators making things inspired, you know, that maybe have existed since longer than they have, and that's just really neat to me. We've seen that internet horror is becoming more and more mainstream because, you know, you have successful films like Skinamarink. You know, Kyle Edward Ball, while I don't think he's talked about enough as part of this community, he was on YouTube for years making short horror projects, and that is absolutely a feature-length analog horror film to me. And then, of course, you know, our golden child Kane Pixels is in talks to make a feature-length Backrooms film with A24. And, you know, even the success of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I think, is a win for the internet horror community because that game is so intrinsically tied with internet horror. We've had so many spin-off series. We have the Walton Files because of Five Nights at Freddy's. While all this widespread success is good, I hope that we still continue similarly to how we have, at least online. Because the thing that has always made me personally cherish internet horror is because it's all about the underdog and all about the fact that anybody can make these things. And it's often young people, or it's often people who have never worked with film or animation or voice acting or writing before. And it's a stepping stone to sometimes incredibly successful careers. Like I've talked about Rebecca Klingel before, who wrote Baraska, an incredible creepypasta, who now works professionally as a writer within horror. So I love that horror in general, whether it is internet or in the film industry, is always a very welcoming industry for beginner filmmakers. You have people like Adam Wingard, who worked for years in horror and is now directing huge blockbusters. Peter Jackson, who did all of the incredible Lord of the Rings movies that won Academy Awards, started in super schlocky horror. Like, it is a stepping stone. And I love that internet horror is doing the same thing that Hollywood has done all these years. I just love that internet horror has given people a platform who may never have had a chance to get their stories out through conventional means. I mean, is a random streaming service going to adapt Baraska? No, they would never take a chance on that. But because it goes viral online, all of a sudden, oh, there's a podcast adaptation of it. Oh, she's getting, you know, big TV deals on other things. Like, that's so inspiring and so cool because it gives people a chance to find an audience and find supporters, and it feels so welcoming. And you know what? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes this community can be incredibly toxic, and that makes me sad because at the heart of all of this is community. And that is what has drawn me to it, and what has drawn, I think, so many other people. They feel seen, they feel represented, they feel welcome. And I think projects like Ted's Caving Journal are proof to me that internet horror on the whole has had this enduring legacy and will continue to. And hopefully 20 years from now, there's some kid getting inspired by the Walton Files, or, you know, the Mandela Catalog, or Gemini, or whatever you may see, and making their own thing out of it. And I just can't wait to see where we continue to grow. Because, you know, what is Chainmail Chasers going to make next? That's, you know, a fully original thing. Or these guys that made Ted's Caving Journal, they're clearly really talented filmmakers. They could easily make an incredible found footage film that could end up at Sundance, just like Blair Witch Project did. I just think that internet horror harbors a space for community and collaboration, and I just think it's so cool that it has existed long enough that the original pillars of it are being adapted by young people. It's feeling very meta and very layered and crazy, and I don't quite know what I'm saying, but I think what I'm saying is that I'm glad it still exists, and I'm glad that it keeps evolving, but I'm glad that we are respecting those who created it. Because in the grand scheme of things, the internet is very young, and internet horror is even younger. As I said earlier, when I sat down to make this video, I was gonna make like a breakdown and analysis of Ted's Caving Journal, but there's nothing to say other than it's really good. Like, it would be a waste of your time, I feel like, for me to be like, hey, look how good they're making this. Like, it's good. I just love that it is honoring one of the greatest contributions to internet horror that we've ever had, which is Ted the Caver. And I really made this video to discuss just how much I love internet horror and how much joy it's brought to me, and the realization that I've made as I've started my YouTube channel and started making these videos is that it's so much bigger and so much more important to horror on the whole and to art on the whole than I think any of us realize. I know I personally, before I started really making these videos, was kind of dismissive of these things I love so much. I'd be like, oh, well, it's just a YouTube series. Oh, it's just a blog post. And it's like, no, it's really incredible art that people are making with pretty much zero budget and just in their free time. And it's brought together so many people from all around the world. And I think that's beautiful and really exciting. I think there's gonna be changes as mainstream media continues to realize that they can make money off of internet horror. And don't get me wrong, I want the people in our community to be successful and make money off of their work. I want the Kane Pixels and the Kyle Edward Balls and the Chris Straubs to get mainstream success and get their coin. That should be, I don't want to say it should be the end goal, but if that's something that you as a internet horror creator want to pursue, you absolutely should. And I think it's just going to expose people to different types of horror, which I think is great. Like, obviously Skinamarink did not do great with every single person in mainstream audiences, but some people who probably had no clue what internet horror was like really enjoyed it, and it gave them a new version of horror that they're not used to. Same with movies like We're All Going to the World's Fair. I think it was incredible that Chris Straub worked with Sci-Fi Channel to create Channel Zero, which I think is maybe one of the building blocks of making creepypasta respectable again, because yeah, on paper, when did Channel Zero come out? On paper, in 2016, the Sci-Fi Channel adapting creepypastas sounds like a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember when it was announced, I was like, oh god. And then I actually watched it and it was like, holy shit, this is some of the best TV I've ever seen. I love it because I think that is partially responsible for the resurgence of creepypasta. And I mean, Chris Straub is a smart motherfucker. He knows what he's doing. And that's why, to me, he is also one of the great pillars of this community. You know, I want all these people to get the success and credit that they deserve. I want, you know, current people to continue to do that, but I do think it's nice to pause and look back at what started in 2001, crawling out of the cave. If you got this far, you get to see me in a headlamp, like a caver would, because this outfit is absolutely the type of outfit that you should wear caving. I was gonna put this on when I started talking about Ted the Caver and then I forgot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. I know this was kind of a weird rambling one, but I'm filled with love for internet horror. It means a lot to me, and I've become very aware of how much we've lost to time on the internet because it moves so fast. And seeing something like Ted the Caver preserved and then also expanded upon with something like Ted's Caving Journal, it just makes me happy because we have to preserve the internet. No one else is doing it but the people using it. I just love this community. I want to continue to be a part of it. I know I'm a small creator, but just the comments that y'all leave and all that, it makes my day. It makes me so happy. Like some of the comments I got on the Lacey Games video that I made last week just fill my heart with joy. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for commenting and subscribing and engaging and for loving internet horror, because it's just such a neat thing and I can't wait to see where it goes. Please watch Ted's Caving Journal. Please watch Chainmail Chasers. Incredible stuff. And feel free to leave a comment if there's anything that you would like me to cover. I really do love covering creepypastas, but in all honesty, y'all, they don't do as well. So as I'm trying to grow my channel, I probably am going to keep veering on the side of analog horror. This one was kind of a one for me, but also one for the analog horror people because I talked about both. But I do love creepypasta. I'm very endeared by it, and I think there's a lot of really good stuff hiding in there. So if there are any creepypastas you would like me to cover, please let me know. And of course, any analog horror, again, I've said it for a month now straight probably, I will cover the Monument Mythos. I'm just working up to it because it means a lot to me and I don't want to mess it up. This new analog horror series release new episodes, I will cover it. That's, you know, it's not easy peasy. I was about to say that's easy peasy. I mean, it's an easy idea, and then I have to actually frame by frame it and find all the missing stuff, and then inevitably I still miss stuff, and I read the YouTube comments on the video, and they find it for me. Again, what a community we have. Thank you for watching. Watch Ted's Caving Journal. If you do anything after watching me yap for however long this is, watch Ted's Caving Journal. It's so good. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm gonna go cave. No, I'm not. I don't like going outside. Bye!